This is a demo on how to generate an iFirm MTD client from Central. So in Central, this will be our launchpad into the cloud. Here we've got a brand new client, K, and we haven't created any tax returns for them before. So the first thing we need to do is create a brand new tax year. The starting year for MTD is going to be the 2026 tax year. Within the return type, we've added in MTD for income tax as a new option. You can link to your existing central workflows, and then you get a message just to let you know that you will be leaving the platform and redirected to the iFirm MTD for income tax product. Once you're familiarized yourself with the flow, you could always ask for this message not to appear in the future. Now, what the system will do is it will convert things like your client name, the national insurance number, the UTR, and etc. Anything that exists within that client record will be pushed to the cloud. For MTD, there are mandatory fields. So, as a requirement, you will need to have the national insurance number and the client postcode field populated. And these are the key fields that we use for MTD so that we can retrieve the obligation for this client. Now that it's been created in the iFirm platform, there's two things that we need to do. The first thing is around the practice authorization. So this is to ensure that MTD for income tax is your preferred software of choice. And what you would need is your ARN number. And then we can click on the authorize. And we should be redirected to HMRC's website. As this is a sandbox environment, we are directed to Developer Hub, but you'd be redirected to the online services account where you would enter in your user ID and your password. Again, this is a sandbox environment, so you won't see this screen, but what you will see is this screen where you grant CCH iFirm permission so that we can interact with HMRC for these following functions. Now that we've given authorization, the status has now changed to active, and then we give you an expiry date for when that token will expire. So similar to MTD for VAT, the tokens will last 18 months. After 18 months, you will then need to go in and reauthorize the application, and that's a HMRC requirement that they have set. Now that we have authorized the product, we can then go into the client, and if the client hasn't been authorized for you to act on their behalf for MTD, you can go in and you can request the authorization. We're being asked to add in a postcode, so we'll do that. And then we generate the authorization URL, which you can copy and send over to your client. As this is a demo environment, we've got the request ID here, which we can copy and approve to speed up the demo. And because we've got those mandatory fields in terms of the postcode and the national insurance number, we can then retrieve the obligations for this client. So in this case, this client is a basic sole trade client. So they've only got a UK property and one self-employment business. This information is based off of the prior year's tax return. So this would have been based off of the 2024-25 tax year. If this client was, let's say, a little bit more complex, maybe they had a foreign property as well as multiple self-employment businesses, then there'll be an additional line for foreign property and then additional lines for each of the self-employment business. Now we can start to add our income and expenses for the first quarter. The first mechanisms that we allow is upload through our Excel spreadsheet, so a bridging tool, but we will be adding in functionality to allow you to pull through data via bookkeeping integrations. So you can choose which template you want to create, either separated quarters or combined quarters. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. In this example here, we've got our combined quarters with some data. So we can upload our file. The system will flag any errors if they do exist, and the key error here is that the client name doesn't match, or the national insurance number doesn't match what is available within the client details. So we can go in and we can update the client name. And we can also update the national insurance number. And when we upload that back into the system, the information should flow into the relevant areas for the income and expenses. If we're happy with that, we can finalize. I won't submit just yet, but if we go back into our dashboard view, we can see now that this is in a finalized state. And then we've got the income and expenses that we've added in via our template. We can go in, we can submit that quarter. And then we move into Q2, sorry. If we go back into Q1, we can see we've now got this green check mark, and that means that that quarter is complete, but most importantly, it's been fulfilled. We can then go in and do the same thing for Q2. We can add in our spreadsheet, and because I've used the multiple quarters, it's all consolidated into one workbook. And given we've got support for cumulative submissions, the income and expenses has now been populated into the relevant areas, and the rental income for last quarter was about just under 1,800, and now that's gone up to just over 3,500. We can finalize that and submit it to HMRC, confirm our submission, and we should now move into Q3. And you can follow the same process to complete your Q3 and Q4 submission. If we go back into Central, we can now see that the 2026 tax year has been created for the return type MTD for income tax, and this sits within the iFirm application. If we wanted to access another client, we just need to click on our client, click on the hyperlink, and then that would redirect us once again into the iFirm platform, where we can start to populate the MTD quarters again once we have got the authorization from the client. And that is the brief demo of MTD for income tax.